Well, 2022 was a huge year for many of us, and I'm sure my next guest will agree. He released a new album, appeared in a new movie, performed on the Grand Ole Opry stage in Nashville, and collaborated with other well-known artists to bring light to the coal mining issue in Alberta. He's Alberta born and bred. I'm talking about Juno Award and Canadian Country Award music winner Corb Lund. Corb, welcome and Happy New Year to you.
Hey, you too. Happy New Year.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning all of your accolades, it didn't elude me that you're actually a multi-Canadian Country Music Association award winner, not to mention the numerous other awards that you've received. And in 2022, I believe you won another one for Alternative Country Album of the Year for songs my
Yeah,
friends wrote, right?
yeah.
So congratulations on that. That was your 11th album.
Something like that. I've lost track.
You've lost track.
That one was a fun one. It didn't take that long because it was, as the name implies, it's called songs my friends wrote. So it's me and my band interpreting a bunch of my buddies' tunes.
Oh, that's so fun and that's so neat. And that, of course, also was released in 2022.
It's a lot easier when you don't have to write the songs.
Well, that's true. And I know, like, out of your other 10 albums, I think 3 of them are gold. So you've had many successes in your life. And of course, it was a huge year this past year for you, mixed with both success and, of course, personal loss. So, Corb, I want to start off by talking about a dear friend of yours who was also a Canadian legend. So, Ian Tyson, who just passed away. And I'm so sorry for your loss, Corb. I know that he meant a lot to you.
Yeah, he was a good friend. It's a big loss for everybody. We knew it was coming. He was getting toward the end of his trail, and he went peacefully, so that's good. But big loss for sure.
Yeah. So maybe tell me about him and how far did you two go back?
I think I met him about 20 years ago. I was doing maybe more. I was doing a tribute show called The Gift, where me and a bunch of people were doing uh, covers, like doing Ian Tyson songs in a touring theater show. And he came out to the Calgary show, and I met him there. And since then, we've recorded a bunch of stuff together and toured a bunch together and played lots of shows and tried to write some tunes together. And yeah, spent a lot of time with him.
Okay. So was Ian an inspiration to you musically in some ways?
Yeah, he was kind of a role model in terms of writing songs with Canadian references. It's hard to do that because if you write American stuff, if you're from America and you put Chicago or LA or Dallas into a song, it has built-in resonance already, and people kind of know what you're talking about. But for an international audience, it's much harder to put Calgary in a song or High River or something. And Ian figured out a way to do it, to make it work. Like he did it in Four Strong Winds. That's probably the biggest. That's probably the most famous reference to Alberta in a popular international song. But yeah, he kind of approached it through a geography cowboy kind of way, which kind of made sense, and I've sort of learned to do that too. It's tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky. As like I said, as a Canadian songwriter, to connect with Americans and international audiences, while still maintaining a connection to singing about where you're from. It's tricky. It's harder, and he was the best at it.
I can imagine how challenging that would be. So, with that said, what kind of an impact on Canadian music and Canadian culture did he have?
Pretty big one. I mean, we kind of consider him our guy, but he was internationally huge too. Like, but yeah, I think 5 or 6 years ago they had a contest or a poll on CBC about the greatest Canadian song ever, and it was Four Strong Winds. So that's tells you something. That was a user poll, like a listener poll. And I think I don't know. It's almost that song's almost like a second Canadian national anthem, I think. And then he's written a ton of songs. He's had different phases to his career, and he was huge in the folk scene in the '60s, and then sort of did some country rock stuff with Great Speckled Bird, and then some Nashville records. And then in the early '80s, he was the sort of the one of the leaders of a big renaissance in traditional cowboy music, and he's been doing that ever since. So he's had many phases, and he's really good at all of them.
That's amazing. What an inspiration. You two did, you performed together, you did some shows together. So what was it like to be up on stage with him?
That was fun, mostly. Like after a while, I just sort of forgot about the his professional track record, and he just became a buddy. Kind of. It never felt like I was hanging out with somebody that was 30 years older. He always felt like any of my musician buddies. So mostly it was just fun.
Okay, so switching gears here, this past year was a huge year for you, Corb. So you starred in a movie, you got to perform live on the Grand Ole Opry stage in Nashville. So what was it like for you being up on that stage?
It was kind of nerve-wracking. Yeah, it's been a busy year. Uh, that's been so long ago. That was in April, I guess. But yeah, it was moving for sure. They have a chunk of the old stage from the Ryman Auditorium, a circle, maybe 6 or 8 foot diameter, and it's from the old stage, and it's all warped and worn out. And they have that center stage. So that's where you stand and you sing. So everybody stood there, Hank and Willie and Waylon and everybody. So yeah, but it was good. My storytelling songs work well in that format. I think they like me.
Oh, it must have been so humbling to be up there knowing that those superstars stood on that very stage.
Yeah, it's a heavy thing.
For sure. So,
I
Corb, go
remember
ahead.
the word. I said I remembered the word, so that's good news.
That's always good news. Okay, so Corb, let's talk about your new movie. It's called Guitar Lessons. So, what's the movie about, and how did this all come about?
I'm buddies with the guy who wrote it and directed it. His name's Aaron James, and I've done little bit parts in some of his older movies, and yeah, he just came down to my house and leaned on me to do it. I didn't really want to do a lead role because I've never done anything that challenging as an actor. I've just done little bit parts, but he convinced me to do it, and I mostly did it because I liked the script a lot. It was a really cool story about a northern Alberta community. It's a very Alberta story, very Canadian, and it's about me. I play a middle-aged successful oil and gas guy who used to be a hotshot guitar player whose career didn't work out, and so he's kind of bitter. And then this scruffy 14-year-old kid starts hassling him for guitar lessons, and I'm kind of a jerk at first, and then we become friends, and happily ever after.
Is it art imitating reality? Has this
Oh,
ever happened to you?
yeah, it wasn't like I was playing a person with an accent and a limp or something. It was pretty, I'm pretty familiar with rig guys and oil and gas guys, and I mean the music part wasn't too tough. So yeah, it was not a stretch. Real actors can the really good actors like Daniel Day-Lewis and those guys can play people who are nothing like themselves, which is a whole nother thing.
Oh, it's amazing.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting because instead of filtering down from Hollywood down to the cities and then the towns, it's kind of gone opposite. We started having it play in small towns all across Alberta, and then it filtered up to the city. And I think they're putting it out again as soon as some of the theaters empty out from what's it called, Avatar. So, and it also apparently it was the most successful, like the most well attended Canadian movie in Canadian theaters this year, which is cool.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
It'll be on streaming eventually, but they're still working that out. I think I don't know much about the movie business.
Okay, so do you think this will open up a whole new world for you, acting wise?
I don't know. I like music too much. It takes a lot of time. Hey, I mean, I'm open to it if I have the time, but I'm still trying to figure out how to play guitar properly. Takes a lot of work. So
So, how long did it take to film? You mentioned it started filming in 2021, the end of it.
yeah,
I think.
I think about 10, I think it was up there about 10 days in high level.
Okay.
It's way up there. It's right by the Yukon border.
Yeah,
Sorry, maybe sorry, the Northwest Territory border.
right. Yeah. Long days, I would imagine.
Some of them, yeah, because
Yeah.
you kind of once the cameras are going, you kind of got to get it before you sleep. So
Well, okay, so you mentioned that you're going to stick with music, although you love acting because you've done other bit parts before. And I think,
I'm not sure if I love it or not yet. Actually, I think live theater would be more fun because, like in music, making records is okay and it's kind of fun, but playing live shows where you get the energy from the audience, that's kind of why I do it. And I feel like acting might be the same way. Like making movies is kind of cool, but you do it and then no one applauds or you don't know if it was any good, and then 6 months later you see it, right? And people might pat you on the back then. Whereas live theater, it's same as live music. You can feel it, right?
yeah, you get that immediate reaction.
So I'd like to try that sometime too, but I need about 5 lifetimes.
Yeah, you really do. I feel like you've lived 5 lifetimes already, even just like looking back on this past year. So early last year, you collaborated on a project with other well-known Canadian country artists. So, we're talking Terry Clark, Paul Brandt, Brett Kissel, to re-release your single called This Is My Prairie. And you all came together to do this to tackle a bit of a controversial topic, the Alberta government's proposal to rescind the province's longstanding coal mining policy. So that policy proposal had landowners and environmental groups and First Nation groups protesting it, not to mention you and your fellow musicians. So why were you so against this policy change?
Well, it was brought to me by some ranchers who had generational places up in the foothills, and I always address this topic by saying, number one, I'm not against resource extraction. It's just that this is a terrible idea. And number two, I'm not political. I don't like any of the parties, so this has nothing to do with politics for me. I would say the same thing no matter who is trying to pull it. But yeah, it makes no sense for Albertans. Like all we're getting the royalty rate is very, very small, and all the companies are foreign, and it's going to ruin the water, it's going to ruin the Old Man River, and it's going to ruin the Rockies, and we don't get anything out of it other than a few hundred jobs per mine, which have to be balanced against ag jobs and tourism jobs, not to mention the cleanup, which no matter what they say, the taxpayer will foot the bill for. We know this. This is just, that's an old playbook. So, and the government's, in my opinion, it's hard to say, but my guess is they're going to try to keep the ban in place on some of the areas, but allow it in other areas and try and slip that by. But we're not going to let them as best we can. We're going to basically the position that I've taken and the people that I've worked with and the ranchers up there think that we don't want any more coal mines in Alberta, period. So,
well, yeah, you've been very vocal about it. And so anything else like that on the horizon for 2023 in terms of collaborating with other musicians for a cause, so to speak?
well, I don't know. This will be my last cause. It's a huge pain in the butt. But as far as collaborating, I don't know. I might end up writing a song or two about it because usually I end up writing songs about whatever's passing through my consciousness at the time. If I'm doing a home reno, I write a song about that. If I'm playing cards, I write a song about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of songs in that vein coming out. But yeah, I've realized that this kind of topic or this kind of issue takes a long time. You don't fix it overnight because often the government and the companies try to drag it out so people lose interest and kind of sneak it in the back door. So they've annoyed me so much that I'm not going to go away, and neither is anybody that I'm working with on this until we have solid legislation in place to have no more coal mines. I'd like to repeat again that I'm not against all extraction of resources. It's just that this particular idea is real stupid.
All right. So with that said, what is on the horizon then for you this upcoming year, Corb? We talked about movies. What about albums? Do you have another album planned? Touring? You pretty much outdid yourself in 2022.
Yeah, since the smoke cleared after COVID in March, we've been touring the whole time until Christmas, pretty much. I think we played most of the provinces in 38 states, I think, since March. So I'm pretty beat. So I'm pretty much open. I'm home writing until May, I think. So yeah, I'm trying to make a new record right now. I have to make a record. I have to have some downtime and read some books and chill out a little bit because I get ideas on the road, but it's just you don't have time to really develop them. I just write them all down, and then when I get home, I take a deep breath and try and put them all together.
Yeah, exactly. And then try to process everything. Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy that you have some time for some R&R in this upcoming year.
It's really a cool thing, actually, being able to be from this area and write songs about this region and sing them internationally, because that's a tough thing to pull off, and we've been lucky enough to be able to do it. But yeah, I think I'm sixth generation Albertan, and we've been in Southern Alberta since the 1800s, and it's really cool to take our culture and put it into music and art, and then take it out to the world. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, this will give you some chance to get back into the mountains and do what you love to do. Get
Yeah,
back on the back of the horse.
yeah, and chill out a little bit.
Exactly. Well, I wish you the best in this new year, Corb, and congratulations, of course, on all of your recent successes.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a busy year.
Absolutely. That was Alberta-born, Juno Award-winning country music artist, Corb Lund. I'm Jeanette Brochet on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.